Welcome to the Northwest Showcase on 93.9 KPDQ, sponsored today by Day Chiropractic. I'm Mary Shepard, and our guest is Dr. David Day of Day Chiropractic. His practice is located at 3758 Southeast 122nd Avenue, just south of Powell. And the phone number to reach him is 503-760-7572. That's 503-760-7572. The website is daychiropractic, all one word, .com.
Yes.
And Dr. Day, so always great to have you here. You always walk in with a spring in your step and just beaming. And we just love having you here in the studio.
I am fortunate to be having as my profession something that I also have a passion for.
Yeah,
so
it shows.
It shows. I love, just preparing for this. What are the things we can talk about? And my mind just starts going. It's just, I'm full of all sorts of things. And I don't know how much is going to actually come out of the show today, but just even thinking about some of the clients, because we're going to talk about some interesting things, from everything from allergies to back problems, and I've got several cases that I'm thinking about. I might even share some things, even though I haven't gotten their permission, so I have to be really general in my sharing.
That's fine.
But just it kind of helps give fuel, because when I read about these research studies that have been performed, what I do is I think about the application, and the application then is to an individual. So if you are struggling with allergies, and you're trying to figure out how to live your life, but you're just miserable, well, I have to then look at these studies and come up with ideas for people and give you an idea that might apply in your body, and let's then see if it works, right? And that's kind of where the rubber meets the road, is can I help you with whatever problem you have?
Well, you know what might help our listeners? I mean, a lot of people have misconceptions or thoughts of what chiropractic care is, and they really don't know.
Yes.
I mean, that seems kind of ridiculous in this day and age, but there are a lot of people that they have no idea what chiropractic is. Why don't you tell everyone?
So essentially, and you might have heard, what do you mean allergies in chiropractic? Well, since your nerve system controls every single function of your body, and I would say it's not even just the direction of the impulses, which is only about a third of the nerves in your system are actually signals going from your brain down to your body giving instructions. About 2/3 of the signals are their messages coming from the different organs and glands and structures in your body that are basically feeding your brain with information. The brain then has to interpret the environment. It has to take all these different sources, compile that together, and then come up with the appropriate instruction for the body. So, for instance, let's say you're about to eat a meal. Your brain, through the sensors, when it smells the things that it determines, okay, there's fat in there, it makes some decisions about the types of enzymes to squirt out into your digestive system, because as the food travels through, it needs it at certain points, right? When the food's in the stomach, that's when the protein is broken down. When it moves into the small intestines, that's when the fats start getting absorbed and things like this. So the brain has to then time the secretion of the enzymes in the right order so that your digestive system works.
Amazing, isn't it?
And how many people are taking things, for instance, you might be taking Tums for calcium or whatever, which is an antacid, screwing up your digestion of your proteins, because it's, you know what I mean? There's all sorts of things that we're doing.
So it affects so many things,
yes.
too.
So as a chiropractor, I try to think about the physiology of your body. And so the world is my oyster, essentially, because I think since the nerve system controls everything, then people would benefit from chiropractic care for just about everything, right? And I believe that every single person should be under chiropractic care. Now, the only question is, how much help does your body need? Some people need more assistance than others. Some nerve systems are just firing at high efficiency. Others really need some help. And when we go to the medical doctor, they don't give much attention to the nerve system at all. The only time they do that is if let's say you've got a disc bulge, maybe you've got some shooting pain down the leg. They might send you to a neurologist who might actually measure how fast the signal is traveling up and down the leg. Almost all the time, they only measure the signal going down, making the muscle twitch. But I wish they would measure the other 2/3 of the signal going up. They could, but most of the time they don't.
So you're examining the neural pathways then?
Neural pathways. And I'm thinking about it as an integrated. Like, one of the new machines that we bought is a heart rate variability tester. What we're doing is we're taking your heart, which is beating it's keeping us alive, right? Well, we want to find out if you're healthy, or is your heart rate variability like a healthy person? And unexpectedly, your heart rate should be variable if you're healthy. And so wait a minute, I thought I should have a steady heartbeat.
Well, most people would think that.
Most people would assume that.
Yeah.
And that's almost counterintuitive. A steady heartbeat tells us that your body is stressing out. Your body has gone into more of a default mode. It's not a physiology that is being driven by your intelligence or by your brain. You want this dialogue, and if there's a good dialogue and the heart is listening to the signals from the brain, it will have more of a variable pattern to it. If the heart's got its head down, it's just keeping you alive, it won't be paying any attention to your brain up here, it will just keep beating. And that's one of the ways we can test. And then we add that with your skin conductance, kind of like taking a lie detector test. But what we're trying to do is we're trying to say, hey, wait a minute. The reason our hands get clammy and we get nervous and butterflies in our tummy, we can't eat before a speech, is we're stressing out. Oh, you go, wait a minute. We could actually measure that. We could compare how our skin conductance is and then link that to the heart rate variability, and we can tell if your system is stressed. Now, without that test, let's say you go to the doctor and he says, oh, you're stressing out, you got to relax more.
Right.
Well,
how do you do that?
How do you do that, and how do you even know if you need that?
Yeah.
Somebody is looking at your life and saying, oh, you must be stressed out. Well, what if that's really not the issue? The issue is in your body. Is your body exhibiting and manifesting stress? You might be very silent and very quiet and very stoic and appear like you've got everything.
Yeah.
Your system may be highly stressed.
Really? Okay.
So I have to then find out, is your system stressed? Mm-hmm. Or are you just causing, some people, you would expect them to be just really, because all around them, they have all sorts of chaos. Their body's fine. It's the people that they affect that's, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
They're in everybody follows in their wake. They're doing great, but it's the people in the wake dealing, so sometimes I wonder if I'm a little bit like that, because there's always stuff around my life. And so sometimes I'm afraid I cause stress in the people I love and the people around me sometimes, because I've got a lot going and that sort of thing. So,
well, you just have a lot of energy. That's it. That's it.
So chiropractic basically then is we analyze your nerve system, and I try to look at all sorts of things, not just, for instance, a lot of our patients, yes, they do have back pain. Maybe they got in a car accident or something happens. A lot of times that's when they end up starting with me. But they continue with us when they find that their body actually works better. And it's this heartburn that they've had for 20 years, and they've been taking this little pill that helps their heartburn.
Right.
When they realize, wait a minute, if my body actually is working the way it's supposed to, maybe I don't even need to take this pill. My body will be able to do my digestion okay without it, because now my nervous system is working. And they had never thought about that as an
I wouldn't think that, heartburn or whatever you want to call it, or too much
acid reflux.
Yeah,
And we see all the TV commercials about the heartburn and
take this pill.
Yeah, that's it. Spray all that. And it's like, well, wait a minute. Your stomach is the only place in your digestive system where it's highly acidic. Now, and we're designed this way, right?
It's supposed to be acidic.
It's supposed to be acidic, and God made our stomach in such a way that when it's working right, there's enough of this protective mucus all over those surfaces, and quite frankly, those cells really aren't designed to last very long, maybe about 5 minutes. But there's such a fast turnover rate of the cells in our stomach that there's always new ones coming up, and when everything's working, that's how it's supposed to function. So if we do something to try to make it so the acid is less, we have done something terrible. Some of the osteoporosis that some of the older ladies are experiencing, or older men, is because they took an antacid to lower the acid, and then they didn't absorb the calcium as well.
Oh no!
You see, so I try to say, well, wait a minute, let's stop and think.
Effect,
there are ripple effects. And in fact, some of the studies I'm bringing with me today have to do with if you take these medications, for instance, Propecia, so baldness. Well, the men who do that, there's a 3 times increase in impotence in men who take this pill for baldness.
There are so many side effects from so many medications.
So if I can help your body function the way God made it, so you don't need to take the medicines. I mean, if you need a medication, wonderful. I'm glad we have a lot, right? Mm-hmm. But a lot of times people don't think of any alternative other than taking the medication. Okay. So even if the medication works, let's say like heartburn. Okay, well, let's say you take the medicine and it makes the heartburn feel not as bad.
Right.
So some people assume, oh, this is good and it fixes my heartburn. Well, that didn't necessarily solve the problem. Right?
It's still an ongoing thing.
That's
for
correct,
a lot of people.
And there will be other consequences for taking that pill to solve to fix the problem. Right. It would be better to say, wait a minute, maybe that symptom may be alerting me that something's not quite right in my system. Maybe if we fix the system, then the need will be gone.
And that's what you do. That's where you come in, right?
That's where I come in. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so anyhow, so then you go, well, what if you're thinking about chiropractic? So what's happening is we're throwing a crazy party. So Tuesday, we want to invite everybody.
Parties.
Well, we're celebrating Cinco de Mayo, and I don't have to do anything like Ocho de Mayo or do something on a different day. We're actually going to celebrate on the 5th because it is a Tuesday. So that's all day long during our normal office hours. You can go on our website and you can see when we're going to be open. We're going to have that catered by Bajios starting at 7:30 in the morning, and it's going to be phenomenal.
It will
so
be.
That's going to be for our patients. Well, let's say you're listening and you say, okay, I've heard this crazy chiropractor. Maybe I'll go I'll check it frequency.
Let's go check this
What
out.
we're going to do, starting tomorrow, from tomorrow until the 15th of May, we've got a $25 special.
Okay.
So that will include, and we're talking about the heart rate variability for the stress analysis. If you've been told that you're stressing out and that you need something, well, why don't you come and I can actually measure it for you. And we will give you a number. Basically, by technology, it's going to do a thermal imaging, surface EMG, heart rate variability, and the computer is going to score you. And you're going to know, kind of like you took a test. Well, you're going to get an 83 on your heart rate variability. You may have a 79 on your muscle tension, and you might have 92 on your organ and gland system. But what we're able to do is it gives us a baseline where we're starting with your system. And then let's say you decide to go into some chiropractic care. As we do follow-up re-exams, we will run those tests, and we'll be able to compare and see how you're doing. And it's a lot of fun when you sit down, you have a personal best on your score where you start to see the benefit that my body is manifesting as a result of this. And some of these things are things you don't have any awareness of. Like you couldn't tell me if the temperature at C2 on your body right now is within a tenth of a degree, like it's supposed to be, or not.
I can't tell you
the
that.
only way is by the technology. So anyhow, we do that.
Yeah.
We also have a high frequency digital X-ray machine. So something that I love. Now I've been in practice almost 30 years now. Next year will be 30 years.
Wow.
And so this is our third X-ray machine. And now I can take the same X-ray with only a quarter of the X-ray exposure to a patient than I did when I started.
Wonderful.
So that's exciting. I'm able to see right away if, one of the things that I do, we'll talk a little bit about this, is the upper cervical misalignments or subluxations. If the top two bones in your neck have even subtle distortions, then that is so important because every signal to and from the brain went through that area. So if there's even a mild misalignment there, it can have at the top of your neck. It's so important. I do an upper cervical specific technique there, which is gentle and yet very effective. So you might be having things like sinus issues, or you could have any number of problems. If you have a subluxation in that area, that's got to be fixed. So anyhow, so I do an open mouth on the X-ray. That's a hard one to do. A lot of doctors don't do this. So you're standing there with the X-ray and you feel like you're in a dentist's office. Your mouth is open. You go, ah. And I take the X-ray. Well, then I have to look at that X-ray to see if I can see the bone 1 and 2, because some people's skulls come down.
Oh, you take that through the mouth?
Through the mouth.
Oh, okay.
People, they're a little off-put by it. They don't know exactly what that, what. So I have to explain the only way to actually see that. Otherwise, see, if we just do it in your jaw and your teeth would cover up those top two bones.
So you can see a little bit better that way.
That's the only way you can see it.
Yeah, okay.
So you have to do things like that. And then I can look at that picture, well, we got to tip your head a little bit more. It's not as clear. Now before, I would have just taken the X-ray, assuming it was fine.
Yeah. And
then we'd run them through the processor, and then we would see, I wish it was a little different. Well, at that point, you're already gone.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Whereas now I go, hey, that's not to the standard that we want. I want to take another one, and I'll get it just right. And it's really exciting.
People will probably really love it.
They love it.
Low exposure,
Absolutely. It is so. We don't have to
that.
think quite so much. And I find a lot of people, the doctors aren't taking X-rays anymore. And it's like, they're just guessing. They're just flipping, they're just making a guess about your health. And if this is really important to you, let's not just guess. Let's actually figure out what's going on.
Yeah. Well, now would be a really good time to start care with you.
Absolutely.
The $25?
Yeah.
Is that the new patients, right?
For the new patients, that's right. And that'll cover the X-rays and the exam and everything. Adjustments are $45.
Okay.
Now, we're not on most of the insurance plans, but you know what? I have a lot of Kaiser patients, a lot of people, they know that they could go to a doctor on their list, and but they'd have a $20 or $25 copay. So by the time they pay me, they don't have any hassle. It's a no-brainer. A lot of people say, I'll just pay the difference. They just you kind of have to chalk you have to pretend like you're paying the copay, but then I'm just a little bit more than the copay. But what you get is a relationship, and I'll look you in the eye, and we'll find out exactly what we need to do, and you're not going to go down into a maze, and you're not dealing with big bureaucracy.
Well, it sounds like you look at the whole body and how everything works in the body, and if every little thing, everything they're experiencing could be tied to some neural pathway that or some adjustment that you can make to open that up and get people feeling better.
Yep.
Well, that's great. $25, a new patient, a Cinco de Mayo special, which is great. And they get the X-rays and all kinds of things, all the stuff that you do.
Yes.
And that's going on right now at Day Chiropractic. We're talking with Dr. David Day of Day Chiropractic, 3758 Southeast 122nd Avenue, just south of Powell is the address. That's 3758 Southeast 122nd Avenue. And the number 503-760-7575. 32. Also, you can check the website at daychiropractic.com. And if you'd like to call Dr. Day, he's right here in the studio. Feel free to do that. 503-786-9390. That's 503-786-9390. We'll be back to talk some more with Dr. Day in a moment on the Northwest Showcase on 93.9 KPDQ.